What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. In today's video, we are hopping into G.O.D.S. issue number 7, the story by Jonathan Hickman dealing with the cosmos of Marvel, with the gods of Marvel, with the accesses of power that not even the Avengers or anybody else usually mess with. The last issue being absolutely amazing, dealing with the Living Tribunal and Oblivion. But this story is going to take us in a little bit of a different direction. This story is going to be dealing with the envoy of the natural order of things. This is the story of Dimitri, probably one of the more interesting characters that we have seen come out of G.O.D.S. We're going to learn what Dimitri has been searching for his entire life. His story starts us in the Soviet Kazakhstan, 1963. So, make sure you guys have subscribed to the channel, make sure that you like this video, and with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we dive into this issue, we are picking up with a ship being launched into space. A man and a woman aboard, with them having liftoff. They take off into the heavens. Vostok 7 has launched. But as we pick up the next day, we have a young boy being escorted by military personnel, asking where they're going, but they give him no answers. Not until they get to a very disclosed location underneath everything, being greeted by some scientists. They play a sound for the young boy, and while he doesn't really understand what's happening, there is something that has happened that they don't understand either. They're hoping that the boy may be able to help, and if you haven't caught on by now, this boy is Dimitri. His parents were the cosmonauts. They play this sound, but it means absolutely nothing to him. Everyone in the room beginning to argue that this was all a waste of time. Now they go back to square one. They analyze this and try to figure out what this means. For young Dimitri, none of this means anything except for the fact that his parents are gone. This is when one of the scientists begin to let him know that that sound, that was a sound that was heard right before they lost communication with his parents. They were hoping that he might know something. It was a long shot. But this is Russia. That means there are not failures. If they did not hear back from the cosmonauts within the next 24 hours, they are going to manufacture a satisfactory outcome, as he gives Dimitri a card, telling him that if he ever needs anything, this is the best way to get in contact with him, because nothing that happens next is going to be easy, but it's going to happen nonetheless. He tells Dimitri that there are things unknown and unsolved in this universe, mysteries that still continue to this day. It is quite possible this will remain one of them. It is something that Dimitri will just have to live with. But becoming the man he is today, he knows that this isn't something he has to live with. This is just a problem that he must solve. Checking in with his little handheld device, everything that they have really come to understand so far is correct. Even though he tells it to double check, there is no need. And it goes on to show him that there is an access of power in the universe. On one end is science, the other end is magic. But there are other accesses in between this, such as birth and death, good and evil. Together they form the cube-like shape of the universe, the totality of everything. Within it, his handheld device knows everything. The problem is, they have been able to triangulate where the sound came from, the sound that he heard all those years ago. This sound originated somewhere outside of reality. This is what takes Dimitri to the house of Dr. Strange. Going inside and having a conversation with the doctor. Dr. Strange knows that he needs a favor, but Dimitri has come with some information to bargain with. Some information about Wynn and what he is going to do about the in-betweener. Being so close to Wynn comes with some discretion, large doses of respect regarding things said in confidence. But he's willing to make a deal with Dr. Strange if Dr. Strange is willing to scratch his back. This is what takes us to later on. If they have done everything right, all they have to do is turn this device on, play back this signal, and this should give them the location of what they need. He tells it to activate the grid, and as all of these things, the devices ping off one another throughout the city, we see the grid come online, and as Dimitri gives the order to play back the signal on a loop, they go to find the Nexus. This takes them to the top of a building. One of the top floors inside, there's a glowing orb, and Dimitri goes to stabilize it, putting up a bunch of poles around it. The bleed of the space is minimal, and so his device is letting him know that this will hold stable for 6 weeks, the upper end of 2 months. This is how long he has, reminding him that space-time is a constant in this reality. There are no guarantees the same rules extend beyond that. A very high probability that he is going to run into a hostile, or even an inhospitable environment. That's why Dimitri has brought a suit along, telling him that if he's not back in 2 weeks, to let Win know. As he goes into this orb, he finds himself in space. The jetpack activating, he makes his way through creatures, using the map that he has, diagramming it out, locating where this sound came from. He reaches the ship that belonged to his mother and father, being able to get inside and finding a person. Nothing is said, Dimitri simply grabs hold of them. This growth that is around the ship, it sends out defensive measures, creatures that come out of all little crevices. It begins to attack them, and so they make a mad dash for it. Dimitri, running with the individual in hand, goes back to that glowing orb and jumps into it, telling his device to cut it off, to cut the signal. That glowing orb disappears and tentacles are left behind, as his device begins to scan these organic material that was left behind. He grabs hold of the other person. Dimitri grabs hold of him and takes them out to the sky. Taking off the helmet, this is Dimitri's mother, telling him not to cry. They have the reunion, whispering in his ear that his father is still out there. And almost in an instant, Dimitri's mother, she disintegrates, blowing away into the wind. He returns back to the machine, letting it know that his mother is gone, but he must go back in. He must go find his father. Now, his device tries to let him know that it was able to scan you. That creature knows that you exist now. It stopped being dormant the moment that you arrived. It noticed a difference between you and your parents. It saw you as the big fish. But Dimitri doesn't care. His father is out there still alive, and he is gonna go rescue him. Activating the device, he goes into the orb, and we are taken 2 months later. The device had contacted Win. The device had opened up the portal, but Dimitri never came back through. The device knows why he went back, and now Win doesn't even know if Dimitri is going to return. That will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Definitely a interesting and heartbreaking story. I think all of us have been a little bit curious on where Dimitri came from. What's his backstory in all of this? And while we don't have his entire backstory, we understand as a young boy, he was told there are things in the universe that just can't be explained. Your parents disappearing is one of those things. And so he has spent his life trying to figure out where they went, falling into the life as the envoy. This gave him an access that he would have never got as a regular person, being able to open up that doorway to outside reality. He found his parents. Some kind of thing grabbed hold of it, grabbed hold of their ship, and it kept them there all this time. But when they come back to reality, time catches up with them. That's why we saw his mother die so quickly. Her time was limited, but it gave them the opportunity to finally move on. That's why he went back for his father. But now that he hasn't returned, Win looks with great concern. Is Win gonna take the risk and go looking for him outside reality? Or is he accepting this for what it is? We only have one more issue left, so I doubt we're gonna get to explore anything that is going on with Dimitri, where he went. That's definitely a story they can tell in great depth if given the opportunity. And Jonathan Hickman already talked about this only only being 8 issues, not sure if it's going to continue on after that. It all depends on if it's going to have success when people go to buy the comic. So far, it hasn't been as hugely successful as they thought it was going to be, regardless of Jonathan Hickman's name attached to it. But this is kind of a passion project for Jonathan Hickman. So given that he has so much success with other titles, currently Ultimate Spider-Man, they might give him some leeway and let him tell the larger story that is still here to be told. Because one more issue isn't going to tell the grand story overall. These 8 issues were really introducing us to Maya, to Win, to how all of this is structured, how it all can work. The 8 issues best read all together at one time. If you get the collected issues, you read it from beginning to end, you're gonna see that this is the story really laying the groundwork of what G.O.D.S is going to be, of what is out there, who represents what, where they all stand, and where this all can go. I, for one, cannot wait to see what Jonathan brings after this last issue coming out, to see what direction we're gonna see G.O.D.S go and how successful it might be with fans. I think given these 8 issues, if they give it the opportunity following this 8-issue story arc, I think there's going to be some promise out there. I think the biggest deterrent is the price tag that they're attaching to this. I think even the digital comics were like $6 or $7. You know, I buy almost exclusively digital because of the channel. There are a handful of comics that I do buy, when, you know, part of my pull list that I get every month in the mail, but they have to be really good comics, and while I enjoy G.O.D.S, it doesn't warrant me also buying the physical edition. And I think a lot of fans are going to be deterred from the price, both digitally and physical. I think this is a big issue on why the comic wasn't as successful as it could have been, because they have all the elements to have a hugely successful comic, but for a multitude of reasons, this story came out more mediocre than groundbreaking. Like I said, I'm a big fan of a good like slow burn movie or slow burn TV show. Knowing Jonathan Hickman's capabilities, his slow burn aspect to his comic book writing, I'm willing to see this through if there's any add-on later on. If they give Jonathan Hickman the green light to write more to this story, I'll probably be first in line to buy the comic to let him really tell that story out, see where it goes, and see if it's worth continuing on once you're like 4 or 5 issues deep. But yeah, with one more issue left to go in this G.O.D.S series, let me know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your theories. If you would like to get caught up on this entire series, go ahead, check out the link in my description as well as the top of this video. It's gonna get you completely caught up on everything that is going on with this series. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by joining the channel membership. Much like Patreon, having multiple different tiers, from $1 to $50, from loyalty badges to comics every single month. Not only are you helping out the channel tremendously, but you are getting tons of perks in the process. Now, if you're unable to do this, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that notification bell, and with that being said, until the next breakdown.